Well, good morning, friend. I hope you're having a great day today. You're going to have to bear with me because I've never done this before. I'm going to read a book. I'm not going to read just any old book. I'm going to read the soon-to-be bestseller, Mr. Please Don't Take My Car. And that's my book. I wrote it over the last few years. Been working on it here and there. Not that long, but hadn't had it published yet. Going to try to find somebody to publish it if I can figure out who to do it, who I can get to do it. But anyway, I'm gonna read the introduction, and then I'm gonna try to do a audio book on Mr. Please Don't Take My Car. The alarm goes off at 6 a.m. Monday morning. Bill rolls over and turns the alarm off. He yawns and stumbles toward the bathroom. Shaving quickly, he gathers his work clothes and gets dressed. He makes a quick sandwich, stuffs it into a paper bag, and pulling his boots on, he heads out for work. He walks out into the driveway. Where's my truck? He looks beside the house. Did I park it over there? I don't remember that. He realizes that his truck is gone. Someone has stolen his truck. He takes out his cell phone and calls the police to report a stolen vehicle. The busy dispatcher takes the call. She listens to his report. Looking at her notes from the overnight shift, she finds his address scribbled down at 3:25 a.m. That was when the repo man called to report to the police that he had repossessed a truck from that address. She explains what happened. He thanks her and hangs up. Going back to the house, he decides to wait at the house until 9 o'clock when he can call the bank and find out what he needs to do to get his truck back. He didn't want to go to work today anyway. Several miles away and a few days later, another truck driver is standing outside the guard shack at the mobile home plant in Boaz, Alabama. It's still dark. The air is cool in the early morning breeze. He had gotten up early, and his big cab-over truck was the first one in line when the gate opened to let the truckers drive in to line up for the trailers. He had waved at the security guard and driven in, and he had driven his Peterbilt into the plant and parked beside the final inspection building. This is where the mobile homes go through their final once-over before they're released to the next driver in line, who then takes them to dealerships all over the South. He had arrived early enough to have the first spot in line this morning. He left the big truck running and walked back over to the guard shack. The drivers hanging around out there just outside the guard shack drink coffee and swap stories until the plant opens up and gets cranked up and running. He'll then be the first driver to hook up this morning. He'll take a new mobile home to an anxiously awaiting dealership somewhere. He would not know where he was going until they handed him the paperwork, and that goes along with the mobile home, so he'd know where to take it. Standing in the circle of the drivers outside the shack that early morning, he didn't pay much attention to the guy with the clipboard who came out of the guard shack and walked off into the dark morning toward the plant. The plant had not started working yet, so a few minutes later, when a truck began to rev its motor, the group of sleepy drivers noticed. They watched as the first truck in line began to move. It rolled forward, picking up speed. It didn't make any attempt to hook up anything. In fact, it sped up as it drove straight through the plant, headed for the back gate. "That's my truck," a driver shouted, thinking someone was playing a joke on him. He ran to the nearest CB radio and began to call his own truck. "Hey, whoever has Mustang's truck, that's not funny. Get back here with my truck." The silence spoke volumes. It did not take him long to realize that the repo man had finally caught up with him. I would have never dreamed that I would or could become a successful repo man. I never thought about anybody repossessing anything. It was just never on my radar. I'm a licensed and ordained minister. I felt the call of God on my life back in 1976 at the Wall Highway Baptist Church in Madison, Alabama. I graduated from Bible College in 1982 and served several years as an associate pastor in Decatur. My first pastorate was at the Baptist Bible Church in Pilgrim's Knob, Virginia. Now, I know a lot of people go around trying to impress folks by saying that they have lived in Pilgrim's Knob, but I really did live there for several years and had a great ministry. Coal is king in Buchanan County, Virginia. Most of the men of our church worked in the coal mines, and we had a great ministry there in Southwest Virginia. There were and there are wonderful folks in Southwest Virginia. After a great ministry there in Pilgrim's Knob, I became pastor of the Madison Street Baptist Church in Athens, Alabama. Somewhere toward the end of 1996, I decided that I could do a better job running my life my way, and I just, the church was thriving, the church was growing, and I had no reason to leave. Call it a midlife crisis, or just plain old foolishness, but I retired from the ministry and started working as a private investigator. Being a private investigator was interesting work, but tracking down wayward spouses was just not my cup of tea. But at times, through our work, we would be looking for and tracking down vehicles to be repossessed for banks and finance companies. That was when I was introduced to the asset recovery business. Two private investigators and I eventually formed a business, bought some trucks, and went into the asset recovery business. We hired a couple of experienced recovery agents, and I gleaned what I could from them while they worked for us. We needed more help, so I took a truck and decided that I too could be a repo man. After all, how hard could it be? I became a repo man. I had no real idea what I was doing. I went with one of our employees one night, only one night, and that was the extent of my training. After that, I basically learned on the job. One of the things that I learned was you got to tie down the steering wheel on some of these older vehicles, because if you don't, if you're towing it from the back and the steering wheel's not tied, why, it'll go whipping across the lanes and hitting stuff. That's when the statement, "It was like that when I picked it up," comes in handy. I learned how to properly recover assets. I got good at what I did. I enjoyed the hunt. I've always enjoyed driving, and I enjoyed driving all the time in all kinds of weather at all hours of the day and night. I slept in the truck a lot. I spent a lot of long, lonely hours staring through the windshield. In my early years, I had no idea that there was a thing called the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But if I had to pick a Bible verse that would apply to the asset recovery business, it would be Matthew chapter 10, verse number 16. "Be therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves." You have to have a lot of wisdom for some of these repos. You also had to know the law regarding repossessions. You must also recover the vehicle without causing any damage or to anything, anybody, anything, anywhere. Let me turn that off right there. And being crazy helps a little bit too. I drove 3 different repo trucks during my career. The first 2 were heavy-duty pickup trucks with sling lifts. These are the older style system. They use a J-hook attached to the sling, and they use that to secure the vehicle. The third truck I drove was a wheel lift. The wheel lift did not require the agent to get out of the vehicle to recover the collateral. The wheel lift was much quicker and safer than the sling lift. My stories are not in chronological order, so they go back and forth between the 2 methods. I spent 13 years in asset recovery as a successful repo man from 1997 until 2010. And these are some of the stories. They're all true. I've resisted the temptation to make the stories more exciting than they were. I tried to resist what Mark Twain called stretchers. That is, exaggerating the truth. If you're in the asset recovery business, you might find some ideas that could help you in your work. And I hope if you do, or I hope you do, and if not, well, I hope you enjoy reading these stories as much as I enjoyed reliving them and writing them down for you. God bless, be safe, and enjoy.